your hands on top of your head.
Well, I didn't.
Now!
Here comes the jam. Getting down with the truth. The only way he knows how to. Girls all up with his name. We're calling the chief. You're damn right. He's gonna get that sucker. Yo, track down the truth. You know what a track down the truth. You know and what do they call him? We call him the chief. You're damn right we do.
I'll bet your mother had a loud bark.
Welcome back to Morning Coffee with the Chief. I'm your host, Patrick Jordan, here on Pop Culture Minefield. You can find me almost every Tuesday. I've been taking some breaks here and there because of some travel. But you can find me here on Tuesdays, and we review movies with other law enforcement officers on Pop Culture Minefield's YouTube channel and their Rumble channel. You can also find us on their Facebook page, and I think they put this on Twitter as well. Now, for me, you can find me at X, at LASD Jordan, and you can also find me on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, at Briefing with the Chief, where I do another show. And that show is actually taken off. It's doing pretty good. I just did a show on a city councilwoman, Nathia Rama, who is running for mayor. She's one of the major candidates, and she's a Democratic Socialist. So I had to kind of call her out, and you can go to my Twitter page and look at her video right at the top of my page, at Briefing with the Chief. And I did a show on a guy who's in Wisconsin who will give free beer when Donald Trump is killed. Free beer. And so I did a show on him as well. A despicable guy. Doesn't like the heat he's getting. I guess other people did shows on him too. So now he's upset that all these people are mad at him. But he's a despicable character. But today we're going to talk about the Texas killing fields. We're going to go over it's basically a fictional movie that is based upon real life scenarios, a real life issue in Texas called the Texas killing fields. It's an area where they do body dumps, and I'll go over that in a little bit. This is not unusual, but I got a couple of friends that are going to join me today to go over this. Oh yeah, before I forget to do, I do a plug for the LA Mission. Now the LA Mission is in downtown LA. And remember, they don't get any money from government. So they're part of the Karen Bass failures here in Los Angeles. And they make the sign of the cross, and they do transitional housing, focus on transitional housing, not this housing first stuff, which has failed. And they need help. If we're going to have any impact, we need to embrace the model that they do, the Los Angeles Mission. And every dollar that you spend at the Los Angeles Mission today will help them. Let's see what you got. Check out the Los Angeles Mission. Thank you, folks, for putting it up there at the losangelesmission.org. Now we're going to talk. Like I said, we're going to talk about the Texas killing fields, and I got a couple of retired guys, partners of mine, that are going to help me out with this. You've seen these guys before. We got John Bailys, otherwise known as Johnny B. He's coming to us from Nevada. He is a California refugee. He's escaped the foolish policies that we have here in Los Angeles and California. Good. Hey, John, how you doing?
Good. Good morning.
Hey, James Jamieson. Hopefully you've got a couple fingers poured there, James, for the show, and we're going to have a good time here today. And we also got retired Sergeant Scott Orr, also an escapee. He's in the volunteer state. You could tell me which state that is, the audience there, volunteer state. Hey, Scott, how you doing?
Doing well, Pat. Just plugging along. Well,
we are doing well here today. The weather's great. The politics suck. But hey, just finished the remodel in the house, and so that's coming along. Buying furniture, shocked at the price. If you want quality furniture, you better get your checkbook out. Holy smokes, you got to take a loan out to buy it.
And you're tight as a bug's butt, so yeah.
That's just because I only bought one meal when we went out to eat didn't mean I was tight, John. I mean, we go out to eat with John, and he's got, it looks like he's feeding the whole table. That's just John on Tuesday.
Dave, if he wasn't married, he'd be sitting in patio furniture or something.
yeah. So, but hey, the remodel came out great. All brand new furniture, all brand new everything.
Good.
We're getting all brand new appliances. It looks good. So we'll be here for a while. We are hunkering down in the leftist California and trying to turn it a little bit red because we're in election season, so it's fun. So, but hey, we're going to talk about the Texas killing field. So what I wanted to talk about, and this isn't. Let me go over the Texas killing field, and I got a couple slides, and we'll get a discussion there, and then we'll go into the movie. So the Texas killing field refers to a 25-acre area along the Interstate 45 near League City, Texas, where over 30 bodies, mostly young women, have been discovered since the 1970s. In April of 2026, a major break occurred with an indictment of a 61-year-old man named James Elmore for the murders of Laura Miller and Audrey Cook, whose bodies were found in the 1980s. I think we got a map here. Let's throw the map up here. There it is. So, the interesting thing about this, guys, is if you look at the map, you can see the overlapping jurisdiction. And obviously, there's 20 acres of oil field area, mostly small towns around this, between Galveston and Houston, and and that's probably part of the problem, right, Scott? Is you have overlapping jurisdictions. If you don't have good communication and coordination with these deaths, key people would come to investigators, right? If you're not working as a task force, that would be a challenge, right? Wouldn't you think?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, we all worked areas that bordered LAPD, and you couldn't talk to each other back then.
Yeah, it got better over time, particularly with homicide, guys. But and the other thing I was looking at is this in the movie. We'll get in the movie, but it looked like, so I looked up the town. The town that is portrayed in the movie is Texas City. You can see it here on the map, right? Mm-hmm. A city of 50,000, and so I'm assuming that League City and all these other ones are just like that, right? And so it's also the lack of resources in these small towns, right? I mean, that's you can't, we were spoiled, right, John? We were spoiled. Resource rich. If we had a problem, we poured resources into it until we solved it, or at least we got it off the front page of the LA Times. These guys can't do it. It's them, and it's the homicide cop is the bird cop, right? It's so they have limited resources to do something like that. And that probably contributes too, don't you think, John?
Oh, absolutely.
So a lack of communication, maybe a lack of resources, and Scott, this also would be a lack of. I don't want to denigrate the folks, but the more homicides you get, the more training you get, the more experience you get, the more likely you're going to solve the case. Would that be accurate? More sources you have too, right?
Yeah, it's when you got. Like we had in Compton, we had our gang team and everything, but we also had the FBI task force.
Yeah. So
we could, they're an endless source of money if you need, And the funny thing is, the only reason why they had an investigator assigned to them is because it'd take weeks for them to get a search warrant signed, because it's got to go all the way around Washington, D.C. before anybody proves it, where we can just walk into a judge's, chambers and have a search warrant 15 minutes later.
Yeah.
So that's really why, they want locals to be on their task force. But they, you could always get money out of that.
So we got James has had a comment. Small town, everybody knows everybody. Yeah, you're going to know who the players are in town in a small town. I know Scott came from a small town. But everybody knows you too, right? There's no anonymity in the cops, so they know who to avoid. And I'll comment in the movie, when you see in the movie, it's like they're doing surveillance. Like, how can you do surveillance in a small town where everybody knows everybody? Well, there's Scott. I wonder who he's looking at. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah, when you're sitting in a police car, and you're looking at people that everybody knows the dirtbag, everybody knows the hooker, and they drive by and they see the car. Oh, there they are. They know right away you're there.
So I was watching that. And I go, okay, that's a pretty. It's like I don't know. I guys
It's
doing
TV,
surveillance,
man.
and I know it's TV, and so that's why it's fictional. Because I mean, there can be, as Jameson pointed out, some benefits to the small town thing, but I think in the patchwork of jurisdictions here that we're seeing on the map, that could be a problem. Let me go over a little more of this map here. The area is centered around a remote industrial oil field, a patch off of Caldera Road and Irving Street in League City. So it's the one main city there, League City. And they talk about this. The Temple City, or Texas City doesn't have jurisdiction where the killing field's at, and they get into that. A suburb between Houston and Galveston. The victims, now let's throw up the victims there, Martine. So the victims, the key cases from 1980s and 90s include Laura Miller and Audrey Cook, Donna Perdomo, and Heidi Frey Viorel. I did check out the victims, and here's a picture of some of them. And they weren't necessarily, I mean, we see these killing fields where dumping grounds for serial killers, and it's lots of times it's ladies of the night, drug addicts, people who will not be missed. But many of these, that wasn't necessarily the case for these folks. Some it was, but some it was not, which has surprised me. James Elmore indicted. At present, there's more than 30 bodies discovered in the corridor. James Elmore indicted for manslaughter and tampering with evidence in the murder of Miller and Cook. Investigators have long suspected multiple perpetrators, and I would probably agree with that. This just became the boneyard for the local killers, including a recently indicted Elmore and another man, Clyde Hendricks. And I have his picture here. Here's his picture, Clyde. And throw that picture up there, Martine. You got it? There he is. There's Clyde, man associated with the Texas killing. So this is Clyde, but the guy who associated with him, and it kind of mirrors a little bit in the movie. You got the one main killer and the guy that kind of is hanging out with them, and we'll see that in the movie where they kidnap the little girl. But here's this guy, and he was killing in the 80s. So we have no idea how many he had. They think he was good for 4. But
But wasn't there like 30?
yeah, there's 30. That's why I'm thinking there's more than one, and they had suspected some other folks. But this movie did inspire, or this situation did inspire the movie that we're going to go over here today, the Texas Killing Field movie. Let me bring that up, and we'll talk about the movie, Killing Field movie. But yeah, so the movie we're going to do is not obviously it's not real life. It's fictional, but it is based upon. We've done these before. Oh God, here we got to get the movie up here so I can talk about it. Here we go. Texas Killing Field. The movie. Here we go. No. It always wants to give me the real stuff here. So this was released in 2011, and some of the people in it I do recognize. We got Sam Worthington and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Do you know these guys?
Yeah, Worthington played in Aliens 3, and Avatar is his big one, and Terminator Salvation. And then Jeffrey Dean Morgan, everybody knows him from Walking Dead. But he was also on Grey's Anatomy.
Jeffrey, okay, yeah, Walking Dead. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, yeah, he plays. I forget his character. He's got Lucille as the baseball bat, right? And Walking Dead.
He played Negan.
Negan, that's it. And now Jason Clarke is in this thing too. I recognized him. He kind of plays a bad guy.
Yeah, he plays Rule, the blonde guy with the tats. He's in a new TV show now called The Last Frontier on Apple TV. He's a Alaskan U.S. Marshal. Great show. It's a CIA whodunit thing. It's really well done. A lot of adventure in it. Really nice, well done.
I think what the movie, we'll get into the movie, but the movie shows two main potential suspect teams, I guess. And him and his partner, he's got a black partner. Where's the black guy at? Let's see here. He doesn't show his picture here, but he they're obviously prostituting women. It looks like it's from women from foster homes, which is a typical thing. The problem, a lot of our foster care system, particularly in LA, is these girls get out of foster care and they immediately get pushed into sexual exploitation. So you kind of see a little bit of that in the movie, and it's implied, of course, that they killed one of them, right? Not 100%, but and then so they keep you guessing who are the teams, who are the killers, right? And in reality, it's probably both these different teams that they portray in the movie.
And I think they tried to tell that story, but they kind of dropped off on one of them.
Yeah, and the guy that played the killer, the shorter guy that played the killer, I'm looking for his
Rhino, Stephen Graham.
Now, I really enjoyed the series Boardwalk Empire, and he played Al Capone in that one.
Yep.
Yeah, so he
was in Gangs of New York too.
Yes, that's right. He was.
And Band of Brothers.
Yeah, yeah. Some criminals really do take advantage of jurisdiction. Yeah, they do, which is a lot about politics. The city chief, county sheriff, state patrol. I will have to tell you, during the riots in '92, the crooks did take advantage of jurisdictions. They avoided the sheriff's jurisdictions as much as possible because we were taking people to jail in LA City. It took them a while to get to that point, but right, Scott, you were down there in Carson when that was happening, right? We took.
Oh yeah, we treated them a lot different than LAPD was treating them.
I just remember, okay, they're driving around Lenox, they're driving around Carson, they're moving around the jurisdictions. The sheriff
did burn down, that whole swap meet and all the grocery stores.
Yeah, after the first, I think 12 to 24 hours, they started. Okay, let's be a little more circumspect on where we're going to loot. And Long Beach continued to get hit, but they started to avoid the sheriff's areas. I was waiting for them to come up to the Valley because I was at Universal. Where were you during the wars? I was at Universal City having a cup of coffee. That's what I was doing. And they never came. They never came. They kept them down in the LA Basin area and out of the San Fernando Valley. They tried to get a couple going, but LAPD did shut them down because
because that's where all the money is at.
Yeah, they never quite got them up there. They never quite got up there. Well, I tell you right now, it's completely different. Was there any difference in MO between the victims? As I said, we might as well start rolling the movie, John. I mean, Martine. And so, okay, let's see. We got to get the director here. Where's the director? Director is Ami Canaan Mann. Ami, A-M-I, Canaan Mann. So, yeah. So there were some of the victims were not in the criminal life, and some were. So there were some differences, which would indicate, as we saw here, probably different suspects targeting different types of women that were. I think the other thing, as I did this movie, there was two things that I thought of is we had serial killers who had dumping grounds. I think one of you guys mentioned when we were in the green room before we started is the Green River Killer, right? I forget his name now, but that's up in I think Washington State. Yeah. And he had like 30. Yeah, that's right. So he had like 34, or he had a lot of. There was actually more than that, I think. He was well into the not into the triple digits, but he was like approaching 50 victims. Is that correct, Scott?
Green River Killer. Like that. He was
Gary Ridgway.
That's it. Green River Killer. Yeah. And he would dump in remote areas too, which is where, first of all, he targeted prostitutes for the most part, and then he would go to remote areas, kill them, and then dump them, or kill them and dump them in remote areas. And which is why so when you have these remote areas or things where you can do, because even God, let's talk about the Atlanta killer, the guy that was killing the young boys. He would kill them, but he would dump them in remote areas, dump them in rivers, areas where he felt he could have. He could be undetected, right? And this is what's going on here. So they're killing them or killing them and dumping them in these bodies where they can they will not be detected. So that's Green River Killers, consistent with that. I think the Long Island killer that there's on trial right now, same kind of thing. He targeted prostitutes, right? But you look at a guy like Ted Bundy, he didn't necessarily target prostitutes. He targeted just college girls and young women in bars, right?
Lone females.
Lone females. Now, here's one of our gals who ends up being a victim who survives, which I thought that was unrealistic too. You know, that they had no victims that the police saved and survived. None of that happened. So that was all fictional. But she represents some of the victims were between the ages of, I believe, 12 and 14. I looked at the ages now. I don't remember them now, but there were several that were teenagers, and I mean under the age of 16. So obviously vulnerable girls. And so, Scott, in small towns, you know, kids, they in the 80s, they just walked around, right? The 70s and 80s, they felt safe in their small town. They weren't looking over the shoulder for the boogeyman. Is that correct?
Oh, we used to, our parents, I mean, all of us, we'd be out riding our bikes or whatever. I mean, we'd tell our mom, hey, we're going to ride over here. But the rule was you better be home before the street lights come on.
Yeah.
That was the only rule.
Well, I will tell you, I grew up in the city of Detroit, and the rule was pretty similar, right? But you had to stay contained within the block, right? You know.
Yeah.
So,
it wasn't
so
like
everybody's looking out for you, right? And that's in the small town. Everybody knows who you are, and they're all looking out for you, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I get the sense here. So you see her walking around, and I can see parents in the theater going, "Oh my God, they let her walk home. Oh, she's a terrible mother." And they do portray the mom as being a terrible mom, right? Which is
she's a prostitute.
She's a prostitute, right? But the thing about it, that wouldn't be unusual in a small town, even from good families. Oh yeah, just walk home from school. You know, you go walk to your girlfriend. Get out of the house. I'm tired of looking at you. Go to your friend's house and. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just that would not be unusual. So I didn't. So that's consistent. But that also makes you, if there's somebody that's a predator, it makes you vulnerable. And you know, and of course this is the early part of this thing. So they don't know there's 30 bodies that are going to end up in the 50 victims. Hey, thank you, Jameson, for looking that up. You can have another drink on me. I appreciate that. And Ridgway strangled all of his victims. Yes, that's exactly right. And he was also married with kids, believe it or not, you know, and I think he was painted cars, and it was some of the paint, I think, that they found in the victims that ended up being the forensic link to him, as well as I think DNA. But yeah, but so the other thing that I thought about, and this one is consistent with Ellie, Long Island killer just pled out, admitted guilt. Yep. Do me a favor there. Since you're becoming the show's historian, can you find out how many people that the Long Island killer is good for? Out all day. Okay. All right. Happy days. All right. So for us here in LA, and I think this is more consistent with what they're dealing with in the Texas killing field, is we have the Boneyard, the San Gabriel Mountains, just adjacent to LA. Hitchhiking was a big thing back then. Yes, it was. And it became a dumping ground for murders, right? Gang murders, you name it. And because I remember I did search and rescue there for a while. We'd have body recoveries, and somebody got killed and dumped in the mountains. Because it's I'm trying to say it's like 450 square miles. I don't know if you remember, John. It's like 450 square miles of national forest. So there's a lot of places you can go and jump a body. They just throw them over the side, right? Because you got steep drop offs, and you may never find that body. And that's what they're counting on, right?
Like the train station in Yellowstone in the TV show. Take them to the train station out in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, no cops around. Throw them into a big ditch, 100 feet down.
Yep. And
that's what they did. And look at the Hillside Strangler, though. They dumped them all over the sides of the freeway.
Well, they wanted to be found. For them, they got the thrill out of seeing the bodies recovered, and that
exactly
they're doing it. Those idiots. But I think the killing fields is probably a little more consistent with what we see with the San Gabriel Mountains in terms of body dumps. And that's what's going on here. But we see our cops here. They do get a lady who's killed, and I can't remember if she was in the life or not. And this is what starts our investigation. And the interesting thing is the cops know who the one cop knows who the young girl is, and you see this relationship between them where he knows the mom's a prostitute, he knows that she's a POS, and he is at least picking up the young girl who ultimately gets saved by him, and driving her home and that kind of stuff, giving her some kind of, I guess, father figure. But I don't know, John, Scott, were the cops like that in small town? They saw you walking and said, "I jump in, Scott, I'll drop you off at home," or maybe not with your family, but were they that way with others?
Well, it's funny thing is, I've said before, my dad was kind of a hoodlum, right? So he had the choice of jail or Marine Corps. So him and his crime partner both chose the Marine Corps. But then after we got out, and changed his whole attitude towards life. After being in the Marines, he was friends with a lot of the cops. So one time I happened to be at a party and I got arrested. Well, detained, I should say. Taken to the station, and then he was a friend of ours that we used to motorcycle ride with. So he drove me home in the morning. But back then, they put, if you're 16 or above, they put you in the drunk tank with everybody else.
Right.
So I was in there with some drunken sailors. Yeah. But he drove me home in the morning and never told my dad, but he still found out because another cop asked if I was on a ride along. So
yeah, to me,
a lot of times, but sometimes I get pulled over just because the guys pulling me over went to high school with my dad, and they weren't friends, so they write me tickets for bullshit things. And like one of them wrote me a ticket and said, "Tell your dad I said hi." So it's like,
great.
Yeah, thanks.
So there's pluses and minuses to being in the small town.
Yeah.
Well, and this gal, so I got to back up here. So the first victim is thought to be a foster kid or runaway from a foster home that was pushed into prostitution and she's killed, right? And she's actually and she's not dumped in the killing fields. She's kind of dumped in the in behind some, I think, a gas station or something. I can't remember what it was. But these same homicide detectives are investigating stuff, some of the homicides in the killing fields, and of course they think it's linked, which is reasonable. But I think that first one was probably the result of Rule or whatever, the salt and pepper team that were into prostituting these foster kids. But that's consistent everywhere, John, right? These foster kids are at risk.
Oh yeah.
The state,
they're vulnerable. Anybody that's vulnerable is what they go after.
Right. And
when you don't have any love at home and you're in a foster home that half of them don't give a shit who you are, and you're in there with 8 other foster kids and you're not taken care of, then you get a guy that gives you some affection. Next thing you know, they're prostituting you, and if you give them any shit, they kill you.
Wow, lady went missing in your hometown, allegedly fed to the pigs. Yeah, that pigs
will eat everything.
They had, what's that, Picton or Pitchard or something like that. A guy up in Canada, that's what he was doing.
Yep.
And with the prostitutes. Okay, Scott. So on this one, they go and talk to a couple of gals, a couple of kids that are still in the foster system, right? And ask, do you know this person? And they reluctantly begin to talk, and they talk about the white dude with the tattoos. Let's talk about tattoos, because sometimes that's all you have with a suspect description, right? So if you got that, how do you solve a case if you got a tattoo? Did you have a database or a place where you could go to maybe identify this guy?
Well, yeah, we had Cal Games back when you could actually use it.
Yeah.
And it was actually had pertinent information to gang members. So you could put in, the city and where, what area you're looking for, and then a specific tat, like smoking gun on neck. And it would pop up anybody that's had an FI card or an arrest that has a tattoo of a smoking gun on their neck. So, everybody back then, nobody wanted to do field interview record, FI card.
Right.
Well, I did them all the time, and I had a Polaroid camera. So OSS and the GET teams, the gang enforcement teams, they loved me because I'd write the FI cards and they'd call me and go, "Hey, can you borrow your camera? We need to take a picture of this guy." Well, Polaroid film wasn't cheap back then, but I'd still do it for them. So when my name came up to go to go to gangs, they're like, "Yeah, I mean, that guy's great." So, but yeah, the database was, you just type in what tattoos you're looking for, and if you didn't specify,
come here,
you get guys from all over the state. And you're like, okay, well, there's 1,000 guys with a gun on their neck.
Right.
But I had a case where we sat for 2 days whether his tattoos was an attempt murder, and the judge says, okay, well, we're not going to bring up the tattoos on his face because that's how he was. And then, of course, the dumb defense attorney started asking me questions about how I knew him. And I told him. He finally looked at the judge, and the judge says he asked. He opened the door. Go ahead. And I said, well, the tattoos above his eyebrows that said Compton Barrio 13. I knew exactly who it was when the victim said he had tattoos above his eyes that said Compton Barrio tattoo. So, yeah, that's gang members. That was one of the main ways to identify who they were.
Tats are for dumb criminals. Anyone inside. Yeah, that's, actually, the Carson Lobby shooting, I forget the name of the guy that came out, the gang guy that came out, and he was the first one that identified him, and he looked at his tattoos and went to Great is what they call it, the gang system, I forget, Dan Elderberry or Dan McElderry. That's it. Yeah. So he identified him. And which, then we could figure out what then they got to the family and figured out, oh yeah, this guy was depressed. Okay. Then we realized what was going on.
Here.
But yeah, so these guys, yeah, they identify themselves with these tattoos, and LA wouldn't be the only place that links crimes based upon the tattoos on the victim, but on the suspect, but it also works with the victims. You get victims with tattoos and you're able to identify them as well if the tattoo is still in good shape, right? So that's the value of tattoos. But so our guys here, the other thing I noticed about this is there's tension between the two guys, right? Our older cop, I think in the storyline, he is actually from another jurisdiction. He came there and became a homicide cop there, right?
New York
City. They play that up quite a bit.
New York City. And, you don't understand. And then the younger guy is you don't understand guy. This is different than New York. And I think the older cop here, he is incensed, I think, that they haven't solved the killings of all these people dying and being dumped. Hey, Gambit, how you doing? Being dumped in the killing fields. He's taking it personal. And whereas the younger guy is saying, well, he's not taking it personal, but he's what's the best way to say it? He's adhering to the political nature of jurisdictional boundaries, right? The sheriff doesn't like you playing in his area. Liberty City doesn't, these different jurisdictions don't like you playing in their area, but in reality, they have to work together if they're going to solve crimes. And I think that's what you're feeling, the frustration of the NYPD officer in that area. I don't know, Scott, did you ever when you really had a good case, a really bad case, I always felt, hey, when the chips are down, the cops generally came together. But, on day to day, there could be a little bit of jurisdictional rivalry. But when it's a big case, a big deal, everybody starts working together is the way I felt about it. When you were doing gang homicides, did you feel that? Did Crash work? Were they easy to work with when everybody got? Yeah.
LAPDs, as much as we talk crap about them, the one thing LAPD does very well is their detectives and their investigators are very, very good. And I think LAPD thrives. I mean, I would say that they're, I think the sheriff's department is the best, don't get me wrong, but and they'll be the first one to jump in and help. If you have a shooting over there, but your suspect is here, there's always Long Beach sometimes was very difficult to deal with.
Really?
Yeah, they were something when they were upset at the sheriff's department because when we took over Compton, we just started we were writing 60 location search warrants on everybody. We were taking grandmas and moms and dads to jail. And then so they slowly went to Downey and Long Beach because they got tired of the sheriff's knocking on their door all the time.
Yeah, well, we got to clarify to the audience so they understand. And this shows you the kind of field it is here, the oil field, or this is just a barren place where they have oil rigs and oil fields. So Compton had 100 murders per 100,000 when we took over. Was it in 98 or 2000? I can't remember.
2000.
2000 we took over, which was really high. They were in the top 20 nationally for murders per capita. And
it was rated #1 for most violent city in America.
Right, probably for the popular. Yeah, okay, yeah, and so we started focusing on gang murders. I think was the big one, right? And dealing with the gangsters. So what Scott is talking about is we focused on that. They got tired of going to jail, and they moved to other areas, which is what happens. You deter crime, right? But I remember the lowest that we got Compton down to was 37 murders per 100,000, which was a dramatic decrease. Then it bumped back up again to like 50, but never ever got back to the height that it had been when we took over. And
well, we first took over the year before we took over in 1999. I believe they had 127 murders.
Yep.
And I think like 80 of them were unsolved. So during that year, now mind you, we started out with just me and Matt Burson, Chief Burson, were the only two assigned. So over the year, we started getting more and more investigators. Well, the sheriff's department, we were able to knock it down to 60. So over half of the murders in 1 year. And boy, I can't remember. Soderbergh was the chief of detectives, I think, at that time. He came in and was just pissed. That's the best we could do. And we're like, we cut it in half. And you're still mad? Give us some time. You're not even in charge of gangs, so why are you giving us a hard time?
But, yeah, I think from a moral standpoint, because they surged a lot of county resources to Compton. And people were mad because it seemed like they were getting all the resources. But from a moral standpoint, it was the right thing to do because it saved lives. And then of course, they reversed course and everything went back up. Now, I got to talk about this car, John. Did you see the car that Rule's driving? Did you see that car?
Oh, yeah.
I go, okay, that's a cool car. I like that style, you know what I mean? And and he's racing around in it and he's got it all souped up. Which is not unusual for a small town. Hey, look at me though. Everybody knows who he is, right? So you know what he's up to in this small town.
No shit.
But they also visit you see the tension, Scott, when they visit the black guy who is essentially a pimp, right?
Yeah.
And about the girl's death, and he knows how she died. I think that team was responsible for the original girl's death that brought these two detectives at the start of the story off here. And you see the resistance. He's given. It's the trickle truth. I'll give just enough to get this cop off my back. But they're going to put pressure on him, right? They're going to put pressure on him, and ultimately they're gonna. In the end, that guy gets taken out by his crime partner, probably because to shut him up, because he's the weaker of the two, right? And and the crime partner will eventually go down for that murder. I don't, but here's a couple of gals that are in the foster bed. This is not an unusual story, John, right? This is absolutely not unusual. This is big in LA, and it's big in most of our major counties. We do not provide the necessary support as kids get out of foster care to bridge into adult life. And of course, it can't be cradle to grave services, but we've got to find some way to ensure that they get put on a good path. But I kind of blame the bureaucracy of these government agencies that they're not doing more for them along the way as foster kids to build them up. I mean, that's just kind of how I see it. But I don't know but this is not unusual. I'm sure it's going on in Las Vegas as well.
Oh yeah, my daughter, one of my daughters, and her husband, they became foster parents through the in LA County, and that's how they adopted their son. They got him at 6 days old or 3 days old, something like that. But he was addicted with fetal alcohol, fetal drug syndrome. He's gone through it now. He's now 9 years old. They adopted him when he was 3. But that doesn't always happen.
Right.
They also got some bad kids that would, little kids, they'd bite him in the head. They couldn't keep those. There's so many kids with issues, but they don't do anything with them. All they do is shove them to another house. And I remember my buddy Gary, when he was working child abuse, he got calls at homes where they have 7 or 8 foster kids in LA, and they're really not watching them. And
No.
One kid rapes another kid, for a play card. Says, hey, I'll give you the card if you let me do your backside. Okay, then he wouldn't give him the card. But there's no supervision. People, it's all about money. The majority of the people in LA, when they become foster parents, the majority, not all, some are great parents, but they want that money, that easy money that comes in every month from the county. And then that money dries up and those kids move on, or they leave. Like you said, there's no pathway. There's no bridge to put them back into society.
Right. In a healthy way. Yeah, they're pushed out the door with few resources. Now we did see a little bit of the good cop, bad cop here stuff, Scott. How much of that did you guys actually use? I always felt it was better, if you talk to somebody in a I don't know, reasonable way, you got more information. But you always see this good cop, bad cop stuff in the movie. Realistic?
I never used it.
Yeah.
There was more psychological shit that you could do
to put pressure on guys, right? Yeah,
it's pressure on. Like there was a table and plus you're in the jail interviewing these guys. It's not like other inmates aren't going to see you or other deputies. And for us, we had to go to a Century Regional Detention Center, so you have the whole booking counter, and everybody the windows to the interview rooms are wide open. They don't cover them, but there was a drawer that you could on one of those desks sitting across from your suspect, and you'd be like, hey, I wonder if you slammed somebody's private parts in this drawer, how bad it would hurt. Why don't we test that out? Like, whoa. But you guys want to know? We didn't say we're going to do it to you. We just said we should test it out. So that kind of stuff. But for the most part, they're in there.
Yeah.
And most humans, there's no matter how bad they are, they want to tell the truth for whatever reason.
Yeah. So they end up like, I'm not talking to you guys. Okay, well, here's your rights. We'll read you your rights. Just sign it up. Yeah.
And then you sit there, and then all of a sudden they start blurting shit out. And then it's like, well, and people think they're lawyers. Well, he invoked his rights, so you should have stopped talking. We did. But as soon as he starts talking and giving us information,
he's waving them.
We have the right to question him on that information.
You didn't have to ask him a thing. You don't ask any questions. They just bloop, bloop, bloop.
It's like, okay, well, now I can start talking to you because you started talking to me.
Yep, and that's so funny because that's so true. And I want to thank you for the comment that we contrary to popular opinion, cops do have compassion for folks. So thank you, John Weston, for saying that. On this thing, when it comes to the ICE stuff that's going on, you're seeing headlines. Only 17% are violent offenders. Only this many are convicted felons. Only this many, and so I did all this deep dive into deportation law, right? And if a person makes an admission that they committed the crime, but they're not prosecuted, that's good enough for Article 2 courts, for immigration courts. So let me give you a theoretical. So if somebody commits a rape, but the gal doesn't want to testify because she don't want to be traumatized again, right? But the guy made an admission. The DA will drop the prosecution, but ICE will take that guy and deport him because they look at the admission as good enough. They don't need a conviction. And it's been that way for over 20 years. And to me, that makes absolute sense. Why are we going to wait and take a risk on a guy that's already admitted that he, at least partially or fully, that he committed a rape or anything else, a burglary, you name it? Why are we waiting until he's convicted before we deport?
Exactly.
If
And
the guy,
a cost of $15,000 a year and a bed that has no room, and our jails are packed.
Right. But if he makes an admission, that should be good enough, right? And it is good enough per the law. But the left and these organizations that are trying to undermine Trump's efforts, they don't talk about that. And I've done some shows on it. I did a show on it, and I got attacked. I got attacked by a retired chief that we all know. I got, you don't understand. Some guys I went to high school with. I go, hey, how about you guys read the law? Read the law, and then ask. And let me ask this common sense question: if the guy is a predator, but we haven't been able to convict him, but he's made admissions that he's a predator, do we want to keep him? No. No, we want to get rid of them. And I obviously you guys know I'm a nerd, right? So if 600,000 people get deported by ICE, and let's say we'll go with their numbers, 25% of them have convictions for serious felonies. That's 150,000 people. If you move 150,000 career criminals out of the United States, what is going to happen, John?
Crime goes down.
Right. And if you're targeting major cities, are homicides rates going to go down, Scott?
Oh, of course. Where else could they go, Pat? They're not going to go up.
Yeah. So if you're getting rid of thousands, from these major cities, you're going to see a drop in crime. And what is Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, who is struggling to win her second term? What is she saying? Well, I lowered crime, and I'm like, no, you didn't.
No, there's less arrests.
ICE did. ICE has moved probably a couple thousand career criminals out of the city of Los Angeles.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that typical of a politician though?
Oh, I know, and it just drives me nuts. It's like if ICE hadn't moved these people out, we would have more murders, more rapes, more child predation, predation of children. We'd have more burglaries. We'd have more robberies. All of these things would be up. And so if you are a person who believes in law and order and keeping community safe, you would be supporting this stuff, but of course they're resisting it. In fact, she just put a bunch of signs up in Echo Park. You guys know where that's at, saying ICE is not allowed on the property. Of course, that's more political than anything else, because ICE can do whatever.
It means absolutely nothing.
It means nothing. I know, but
cracks me up.
It's the same thing, Pat. When what prop whatever it was, it turned everything into misdemeanors.
Yes,
and then you had all the politicians going, felonies are down. You don't mention the misdemeanors are sky high, but felonies are down.
And you change the law to make them misdemeanors. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. And then felonies are down. Well, yeah, because now everything except for murder, robbery, rape, there is still felonies, but everything else now is misdemeanors. I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah, I know. When I look
at people buy it.
I look at the stats. Yeah, I try to talk at the stats. I always say, hey, you know what? If all these programs have worked, they'll have a database that shows it. If you look at the California Department of Corrections, they haven't showed recidivist numbers on their dashboard for 5 years. What does that mean to you when you don't show the recidivist?
Because everybody's coming right back.
Yes, the numbers aren't playing out for you. Okay, so in the movie, we have a girl that's kidnapped, right? So one of the gals in the foster home is kidnapped. Now, here's what bothers me about with us. If we have a credible kidnapping of a child, right, or a young person who's endangered, we pull out all the stops. I didn't see this in the movie. This is what bothered me. I didn't. I saw. The two homicide cops are involved, but that's it. But we would have a command post set up. We would be beating the bushes. We'd hit every single place that these people that the victim knew to make sure it's not just a runaway or whatever. If we thought it was legitimate kidnapping, we'd have a command post going, and we would be pulling every thread. I didn't see that in the movie, and that bothered me because
this movie, to me, I don't. It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't one of my favorites.
No,
I guess. I mean, I didn't. They never. Nothing was ever closed. You were left with like the rape or the attempted rape of the woman in her house.
Yes.
With her kids in there and everything, going off on the cops. Like, oh, you're just sitting here at your desk, not okay.
Yeah,
fine.
I'm sorry. That's a kidnapping I'm talking about. That's a legitimate kidnapping, and
well, I mean, so he breaks into the house. He tries to rape her, but it's never tied into anybody.
Yeah,
we kind of know who those two at the end, but his buddy was outside, the brother or the son of the prostitute, banging on the walls when people were coming around. And then he came back in the second time. And the cops are on the phone. They're not doing shit when they're listening to it.
Well, and something like that, you're going to pull out all the stops. And that's where mutual aid comes in. Your county partners are going to come in. Other cities are going to come and help you. And I didn't see the urgency when these women were kidnapped or they disappeared, and they felt that these were critical missings, right? That this wasn't just a runaway; it was something more than that. I didn't see that in the movie, so that's where I think a lot of the not realistic stuff comes in, right?
Right.
I think the other thing where and I can't say for sure because I haven't delved into the investigation of the real killing fields. Did jurisdictional rivalries play into this? I mean, they do show that a little bit in the movie with the sheriff there, that
the fat guy,
yeah. But I just think hey, if a young girl is missing and we think it's a kidnapping and she's endangered, we're pulling out all the stops. That's when you spend the dime. That's when you spend the dime, right? You say, okay, we're going to hold over shift. We're going to bring in you guys. We're going to call in detectives from home, and we're going to beat the bushes. I didn't see that here. Maybe that's part of the problem in the 70s and 80s. I know that. I don't know. I came in the 80s, and that was kind of always our policy, right, John? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Critical missing. It was. Yep. We always had that where you pulled out all the stops, and once patrol is done and done everything they could do, it gets handed over to detectives, and detectives run with whatever's left, right, and pull in street resources as needed. So yeah, right. I love the Heat of the Night 2 is a fantastic movie. I think we reviewed that one. Did we review that?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, it's a great movie, and
but the thing is that you're used to being in LA Sheriff's where we do all that stuff, but these small towns, and then part of this problem, and I think they kind of mentioned it a little bit, they glozed over it, is they're thinking they're all prostitutes. Who gives a shit? Very lethargic. It's like on Indian reservations. A lot of Indian girls go missing every year, and they don't do shit about them. The Indian cops can only do so much because they have no jurisdiction off the reservation, and they have no resources. And the cops in the outer cities, they're like, it's a lot of it's racism. A lot of it is old mental thinking and a lack of money and resources. And they're like, it's just an Indian, which is horrible.
I interviewed one of the FBI guys who was a whistleblower, so he had to quit because he just didn't agree with all the J6 prosecutions and stuff like that. Well, he had spent like 5 years as basically they're the beat detective for all crimes. So the Indian cops will write the report, and then they'll come in and they'll do all the investigations, and the prosecutions will be through federal court. And I was asking about it because it was really just garden variety investigative work, which you don't see the FBI do very much, right? Their cases are narrower generally, right? They're bank fraud, they're robberies of banks, they're but just doing, hey, you're doing a Berg investigation, you know what I mean? You don't see them doing that, but they had to do that there. That was part of their thing.
Yep.
And I asked him about it. Did you think that made you a well-rounded? He said, yeah, it made me a well-rounded detective. And I said, well, did you like it? He goes, I loved it. I really was just, he said I was torn because I loved what I was doing, but I wanted to get closer to my parents who were getting older. And so I had an opportunity to move closer to where he had grown up, Savannah, Georgia. And so he chose that, right? And then that led him to resisting doing J6 cases. And they were building a case on him, and he got hired back, and he got a settlement. But yeah, he loved it. He loved doing it because he enjoyed the beat cop kind of stuff, and he had been a Savannah PD guy, so he had some local policing stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. So.
Well, here in Tennessee is that, like I live in a very small county. I live in a small county where population's like 2,000 people.
Wow.
So if there's a murder, the sheriff's department automatically calls the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the manpower to investigate anything. So, and then like where I grew up, we had the city, and then we had the county, and the county wasn't that big either. So
right.
A lot of times it would go to, whatever task force, or they had multi-county task force and stuff like that to investigate it.
It's skill set though, right? Scott, it isn't necessarily, it's resources, it's skill sets too. Resource, it means people being able to develop people to have the skill sets. I remember just watching a lot of that old, things on Ted Bundy, those original murders back there. And Kings County is not necessarily small up there in Seattle.
No.
But they didn't have the resources to link the different murders. You know what I mean? Different jurisdictions weren't necessarily talking because it wasn't always I think it was the King County Sheriff, I think, broke that case, but it wasn't necessarily just the sheriffs. It was Seattle and other places where Bundy operated, and they suffered the same thing: poor communication, poor linkage of tips that came in, and I suspect that that's some of the stuff we see in the Texas killing fields here as well, and which I don't know. If I was a small town chief, that I would be focused on trying to bring everybody together. But you have to allow yourself to be small occasionally so the sheriff can be big. You know what I mean? You have to, the way I did it when I did task forces, I would tell everybody, hey, we're going to do this, and here's how this works. Whether you're LAPD, the sheriff, and whoever else we had along, you go back and tell your boss how great a job you did running the task force. They did or not. I'm not going to get promoted to LAPD captain, or doesn't matter to me if you take credit, right? I'm going to go take credit for what I did here in the sheriff's department, and it worked out pretty good, and all right, we'll make sure your boss gets to say, everybody gets to talk, right? And I never had a problem with task forces because I didn't have to be I'm not going to get promoted to LAPD or Long Beach or some of these other agencies we're worked with. So what do I care if they go back and tell their boss how great a job they did, managing the task force, right? And so you got to kind of put your ego in the drawer, and it works out pretty good. And I remember working with LAPD. It was their chief said, "Man, you guys are." I says, "Hey, it's not us. Your guys are the ones doing the legwork. We're just kind of organizing it." So. And they came to us to work with us, and that guy got promoted to sergeant. That was willing to work with us. All right, we are at the halfway mark. We are at the senior citizen stretch, and Martine, are you ready to let these old guys go use the facilities?
John's got to be hurting right now.
There you go. Okay.
There's only one location on the internet where you can get it all: movie, TV, and comic industry. News and rumor analysis. Official scoops from Geekosity magazine. Reviews and interviews. So, when you need it to be Sunday, there's only one place to go, mate. pop culture minefield, where they're always talking nerdy nerd stuff. Right, jog on then. There's only one location on the internet where you can get it all. Movie, TV, and comic industry. News and rumor analysis. Official scoops from Geekosity magazine. Reviews and interviews. So, when you need it to be Sunday, there's only one place to go, mate. Pop culture minefield. Well, they're always talking nerdy nerd stuff. Right, jog on then.
Hey, welcome back to Morning Coffee with the Chief. You know, they're talking about Jimmy Hoffa in the comments, so I had to let them know that Jimmy was killed in my hometown, Detroit. So Johnny B, where you at? I wonder if is Martinez Johnny B up, or is he just did he drop off? Oh, there he is. All right, there you are.
I heard Scott's rude remark. And he's right. I was dying. And hey, at my age, it takes I can count 3 minutes off, and I'm still using the facilities.
So you need every bit of that 2 minutes, right?
Oh, the hockey game last night. I run up in the second period, and I'm up there, and it keeps going, and we scored. I'm like, wow, I missed 5 minutes.
Flomax. You need some Flomax.
Yeah. Flomax doesn't work.
Yeah, the
mine works great.
Let's see. We got.
It just doesn't stop.
I almost think the jurisdictional problem has gotten worse with politics. Every major county. You know, I have to say, right now, I would agree. With the anti-ICE stuff, they won't work with ICE, and then you have some jurisdictions that will. And then you have jurisdictions that are saying, you know, resist ICE, which is lunacy, you know, thankfully.
Because they don't understand the law.
Yeah, it's thankfully the chiefs, most of the chiefs of police and the sheriffs get it, right? I mean, you have some really dumb ones who get up there and say, we're going to resist. I think Minneapolis and.
Yeah, that guy's an idiot.
Yeah, that guy's an idiot. But yeah, I saw the commissioner or chief, or I don't know, I forget what they call him in Chicago, and he's like, he wasn't supportive of ICE, but he was dismissive of the accusations against ICE. You know, he's saying, basically, if you follow cops around and you're stalking them, that's a threat. So you don't do that, right? And he wasn't having that. If you start running into them, then yeah, they get to use deadly force. And so he's been pretty quiet since he did that. But even Jim McDonnell here has been very. They asked him I don't know if you know this. They asked him at a city council meeting. Well, will you tell us, one of the idiots in city council, she's Democratic Socialist, will you tell us when ICE tells you that they're going to do operations so we can warn the citizens, we can warn the immigrants? And of course, McDonald says, no, that would be illegal. We're not going to do that. Just like,
yeah,
boom, cut it right off. No, that would be illegal. We're not going to do that. So
yeah, but what people have to understand, chiefs of police in most cities are appointed. So they're beholding to the city council. And if they don't do what the city council wants, they'll get rid of them. And a lot of these people have no balls and no integrity, so they will kiss their butt to keep their job. And of course, they don't make the money in some of these small towns and other states that we make in LA. But sheriffs, on the other hand, are voted on. However, in LA, they've done that thing where they can kick him out now, which I'm surprised that hasn't gone to court yet, but because it's taken away our vote. But sheriffs are voted on, and they're not beholden to any politicians.
I think the sheriff down in Philly was, obviously virulently anti-ICE, and Hennepin County, the same thing. But it's risky. Just to if you resist ICE, that could be obstruction, right? And that is a violation of the law, and you could be prosecuted. The chief knows that. The other thing, though, is LA wants to not work with any federal partners, none. And I mean, I did a show on it. Are we ready for the Olympics? And we're not. I interviewed Chief Al Labrada. I don't know if you recognize it. He was an assistant chief for LAP, and we went through it all. Yeah. And he said that. He says, anytime I worked with ICE, I got grief from the city council, not ICE, federal partners, any federal partner. I got grief from the LA City Council. And the LA City Council is trying to move to take authority away from the mayor of Los Angeles to them. Because I'm not showing kudos out there for Bass, but she has resisted efforts from the LA City Council to get greater control over the LAPD, and she's tried to expand that. Not enough, but at least she's not going along with radical socialists and defund them. So yeah, hey, just so somebody says, wow, that's so the Jimmy Hoffa connection to my family. Okay, so my dad was a sergeant for the Detroit Police, and he got passed over on a promotional exam. So it was one of the first passed overs for affirmative action. They sued, and the judge found that the Bakey just out of UC Davis justified a passing over of candidates for the Detroit Police for promotion to lieutenant. The attorney in that case was Jimmy Hoffa Jr. He was my dad's union attorney. So they lost though. That's the Jordan connection to the Hoffa family, right? So anyway, so I'm familiar with the Hoffa case just because Hoffa was killed in Detroit, right? And the mafiosos in Detroit were seen as probably the ones that were responsible for his death, although the orders probably came from elsewhere. But yeah, so in the movie though, we're seeing this detective. So I don't know, the detective. This is where the storyline. So we got it set up where girls are getting kidnapped and prostitution and all this other stuff, and they're getting dumped in the. But we're starting to see the development of our suspects, right? That our salt and pepper team are clearly prostitutes that are preying upon the kids that are released from the foster care beds. And you're seeing the character development between our older New York copper with the young girl who ultimately gets kidnapped. And you also are seeing that they're having conflict with somebody. One of the ones, the bar fight between the cop and to me, that I don't know, Scott, that seemed unreal. Probably could get away with that in a small town, right? No, I thought that was unrealistic. But I mean, we are talking about the 80s.
You mean when they stole the ring off the dead hand?
Yeah, give me the ring.
Talk to him, and then fight was on.
Yeah, that I go, okay, that maybe that would happen, maybe that wouldn't happen.
No, but I'm like, okay, first of all, you're in a bar with a bunch of other crooks.
You're outnumbered.
And then you start this fight. I would have just said, book them. Let's go. He's tampering with evidence.
Hook them up.
Receiving stolen property. I mean, I throw, and then once I got him to the station, we may have a different conversation.
Exactly.
But
yeah, I thought it was unrealistic.
In a bar, there was a fight at that Samoan bar across the street from the station. I get the call, I open the door, and it's a melee. I closed the door, and when the sergeant pulled up and said, "Why are you out here?" I said, "Because it's a melee in there." And he's like, "Good, we'll wait out here until they're done fighting, and then we'll go in." I mean, I'm not going to go in and start a fight or get involved in a fight.
Yeah. So a lot of this is where I saw the deviate. Okay, they're starting to get a little loony here, because you're right. Why would you challenge the guy in a bar in his environment? You take him to yours, and
it's Hollywood.
I forget. I was talking on something, and I can't remember what it was, but it was, I did the analogy. You don't piss off. Oh, it was the nut guy that wanted. There's a guy up in Wisconsin that was offering free beer once Donald Trump was off, right? So I did a little video on him, and he's kind of I don't think anybody likes him up in that town. Even the Democrats don't like him up in that town because he's kind of a jerk, right? He's this liberal, self-righteous jerk, and of course he goes to the zoning commission doesn't give him his zoning license for his brewery. So he's pissed off at him. He's saying it's just because you're mad at my politics, right? And I think it's kind of a purple area. So I don't think it's his politics. I think it's just his attitude. But so here's the analogy: you don't piss off a traffic cop because they got this book called the vehicle code that's probably 4 inches thick. And if you're going to piss off a traffic cop, you're gonna probably get a dozen violations on that. On your car or everything else. You don't piss off the guy who knows the penal code or the vehicle code, because there are a whole bunch of laws in there that they can use against you. That's kind of how I see this too. Is okay, he's being a jerk, so you're right, Scott. Take him to jail. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole host of crimes you could probably take him to jail for, including when you tamper with evidence, right? Including that one right there, right? So. I don't know. So that's why I thought it was unrealistic. And you start seeing I think the plot line goes off the rails regarding cops. But this is typical in cop movies.
Oh yeah.
We are emotional, we are compassionate, but we control our emotions, and we got a goal in mind, and that goal is conviction or recover the girl or whatever, right? It's we don't lose it. And yet,
they did so much bad shit in this movie. They wouldn't have had any convictions.
They don't. I mean, a lot of these movies, you watch the credits, and it's like, okay, well, where's your law enforcement, advisor telling you?
Yeah.
And it's like some guy writes it's based on a book, I guess some guy wrote this movie, and it's like, well. Okay, that's great. He wrote a book, but what is his background in law enforcement? Are you just making shit up that you saw from other movies?
Exactly.
In other books? I mean, come on, we're not cops. There's not a single cop that I ever knew, and I know thousands of cops, would go into a bar and get in a fist fight and start basically a barroom brawl.
No. Yeah,
Nobody would ever do that.
You look at how you're going to retreat when you recognize it's going.
Exactly.
You're looking at
how are we going to get out of here?
The bar fight. It's like, why would I go in there in this bar fight knowing that I'm going to end up being the bad guy because I got a badge on my chest?
Yes. Yeah, and you're outnumbered, right? Yeah, that's exactly right.
And those are some big ass Samoans beating the hell out of each other.
Yeah, you'd have to get out of there like Cleavon Little in Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm going to shoot him.
I'm going to kill him.
And they all back off.
I went to a call, and I was the sergeant in Carson, and it was these three Samoans, brothers.
Oh, boy.
Fighting each other for entertainment, right? But they're really fighting each other, right? Because they enjoyed this. And they were, of course, they start MFing the deputies, right? And you remember Manny Scruggs, big, huge.
He was my academy class.
He wanted to go in there. I said, "Are you kidding me? We're not going." And I got to the mom. I said, "Okay, mom, you got to get control of your boys here, right?" And she gets the broom and she starts hitting them with the broom, and it broke it up, right? So
Yeah.
in the end, I said, you know what, this is just a family thing. We're not going to take anybody to jail. All we got was names thrown at us. No big deal. But I had some pretty big guys on my side that want to go after him, and I wasn't a small guy. I was probably pushing 220 at the time, and I'm like, God, no way. I don't want to fight these guys, because these guys, obviously, all of them were over 300 pounds, and Samoans,
and they love to fight and drink.
They like to fight, and to them, it's fun, and they got shoulders on them that, I remember we arrested one guy, and we had to use 2 sets of cuffs to handcuff him, right? And he was mad at us. We used pepper spray on him so that it was easier to take him down. And he leans over, he reaches over with his teeth and rips his collar off his shirt, and he starts eating it. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad we didn't have to. Thank God for pepper sprays. It was one of the first uses of pepper spray that I've seen, and the 3 of us were able to take him down. So, and yes, the sergeant did mix it up with the guys. So my favorite Jimmy Hoffa quote was from the Senate. Let's see here. Where's the quote? When asked if the Teamsters were powerful, he said, saying you're powerful is like saying you're ladylike. If you have to say it, you probably ain't. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. If telling people you're powerful doesn't really mean you're powerful. Hi, everyone. Union family here. 2 Ironworkers Local 16 Gambit. Howdy. Hey, how you doing? I came from a union town. Believe it or not, Detroit was a big union town, and so I am an outlier because I'm a Republican from my union family. But although a lot of Reagan Democrats, and now I guess if you're a Democrat and you voted for Trump, I guess you're MAGA, right? I guess, I don't know, because
you're ostracized.
You're completely moving over, because I noticed a lot of
they saw the light.
Yeah, and the thing about Trump is, a lot of the people, they conservative, left, right. He's not. He's a populist. He's a moderate. He's a populist. He used to be Democrat, and tries. I guess being a political science purist, I hate when they call him a conservative, because he's not. He may do some things that are conservative, but he's really not. But whatever. People they have to label him to knock him down. Okay, where are we?
Hey, speaking of police chiefs.
Yeah.
How'd you like that new female one in Detroit when they were interviewing her about ICE and everything? They said, "Do you have an operational plan?" And she goes, "What's that?" And everybody goes, "What?"
They are, what? James Craig was a former LAPD, and he was their police chief for a long time, and he knew what he was doing. I forget, he'd gone to a couple of agencies, and then he got hired by Detroit, and he was there for a while. It's like 10 years, and they loved him, but he took no nonsense from the city council, and they got a mayor, and believe it or not, they elected, it's 80% black in the city, maybe 85, and they elected a guy named Mike Dugan, who's a white dude, and he, after the bankruptcy of the city, he pulled them back from the brink and pulled it all together. I think Dugan is running for governor right now, the mayor, as an independent. But yeah, I'm not surprised. They hire incompetent people, and but it's more about who you've hired than the quality of the person you hired, right?
Yeah, DEI.
Yeah.
Look at the fire chief for LA.
Yeah.
After the Palisades fire, they're all pointing to and she's like, whoa, wait a minute. The city council cut my budget to fund a bunch of homeless programs. So
yeah,
don't look at the fire department. And then what they do to her. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I looked into, some of the fire people. I knew some of the fire people, and they were very frustrated because there were some basic things that they normally did that she did not do, that they felt that they could have done. But, she's also in the midst of right. They cut her budget by $25 million to fund community-based programs, which was $50 million. But also, they refunded some of LAPD's cuts as well. So there were other things they did in that budget. But basic stuff, they didn't do maintenance on the fire truck. So they had a reservoir of trucks where they can put, because you know how it is okay, you have a certain number of cars that go out every day or trucks that go out every day, but if you want to put extra people out, you need extra equipment. And they didn't main that extra. The older equipment then goes into the the surplus, ready to be deployed, but they didn't maintain that, so it wasn't available. And the interesting thing, because I really dug into this, LA County really was lucky. A guy named Maroney, he was the acting chief for LA County Fire. He saw what was starting in the Palisades, and he held over all of his crews. So the day crews got held over, and so he had maximum deployment. LA City didn't do that, which didn't make any sense to me, because I think that was budgetary. I think they made a budgetary decision, and they paid dearly for it.
A stupid decision.
Yeah.
Look at our department, with transportation, TST. What was it? The big stink last year, we had like 20 or 25 buses to take inmates to and from court.
Yep.
And how many were working? Two.
Yeah, because they wouldn't replace them. They wouldn't. They cut the supply budget, and they did. This wasn't just under B&W, but they did it under Jim McDonnell too. So it's this game they play, and we have a bunch of Democratic Socialists or people who affiliate with Democratic Socialists, both the LA City Council and the LA County Board of Supervisors, and they're just cutting the sheriff's budget just to cut the sheriff's budget, and they're cutting LAPD just to cut LAPD, and unfortunately, I think a tragedy needs to happen for the public to wake up. The fires are helping. It will really be interesting to see if Pratt wins, or if he at least gets in the runoff. That's the guy that's the reality star. And his abilities are questionable, but we already know what Bass's abilities are. They're terrible, right? She sucks. So can he be any worse? And the same with Nathia Rama, who is a Democratic Socialist, who's also the major candidate in that race.
Pat, nothing's going to change until people stop with this whole. Like, I've always voted who I thought would do the best job.
Right.
I didn't care whether I'm still that way. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat or whatever. I don't care as long as it's somebody competent that's going to do the job, and personally, I think they're going to do a better job. But this whole, Karen Bass was terrible. She was under investigation when she was in the legislature. And they had somebody, yes, he was a Republican, but somebody that had plans of helping change the city of LA. But no, we're going to vote blue no matter who, just because.
Yep.
And it's like, now you reap
what you sow. Yep, you reap what you sow.
You vote these people in like Newsom. You keep voting that buffoon in.
Yep.
And nothing changes, even though he makes a gazillion promises.
Yep. Yeah. All right, we got it.
We have a friend that says, "Yeah, but he's so good looking."
Oh, so
that's
what?
How you pick your people to run your state is based on his looks.
He slept with his best friend's wife, who was his campaign manager. This is who he is. You look at Eric Swallow, his leading candidate for governor. He slept with everybody he can. And, they've weakened the laws that protect women and children. I have no idea why they keep electing these idiots, but we do get. All right, I got to get into the movie here. So this is the shooting scene. This is where they believe they got. I think the black girl has been kidnapped, right? And they figured this out. And our, for lack of better words, our local cop, the younger local, he's monitoring this thing. And our older New York cop realizes that the girl that he's been kind of minding and taking care of and watching over has been kidnapped. And so they're in two different things. So we got one guy, we'll say the New York copper, he's looking for the 11, 12-year-old that's been kidnapped. And we got the local homicide guy, there he is with the dog, who is now in this situation where there's a shooting, and they don't catch these guys. They manage to get away, right? They shoot one of the local cops. It looks like it's a couple different agencies that come together trying to get the guys. This predated this, or was before this scene. But that shooting was a mess, right? And the guy leaves.
So unrealistic. This is
I
what
know.
I'm saying.
Like,
if you're going to make a cop movie, at least have an advisor. Whether you take his advice or not.
So you got, I mean, you could do two big things at once, right? But the guy who's involved in the shootings, the guy that, where they're chasing the salt and pepper teen, you got a cop down who gets shot. You ain't leaving that scene, right?
Two cops down.
Two cops down. You ain't leaving that scene. They're going to be flooding resources there. The missing girl will be secondary, but they would move resources to help that guy too, and he wouldn't be by himself. But so this is where it became pretty unrealistic. And
if you shoot a cop, you shoot two cops.
Yeah,
I mean, we're talking about Texas here.
Yes.
You're going to have every freaking jurisdiction in the world flooding in there. You're going to have the Rangers. You're going to have the FBI, ATF.
Yes.
You're going to have everybody and their grandmother.
Yes.
And all the citizens will arm themselves. How are these guys getting away?
Yeah, I know.
You'd have helicopters from the military. I mean, it's Texas.
True.
So we just saw the black guy hold the gun to the white guy's head, and but then he doesn't do it. He doesn't kill him, but then the white guy kills him. I didn't understand that scene. Like, okay, dude, if obviously the white dude is a little more crazier than the black dude here.
Very. Well, he was playing a nut job, but the black guy said, "You don't kill coppers, man. We don't do that here. Going to give you nothing but problems." Yep. And they start talking shit, and the black guy puts a gun to his head. He goes, "Go ahead and shoot. You got the balls," and he puts it down. Then he puts his gun to his head and goes and says something, and bang. Then he gets out of the car and walks away.
But again, in the movie, where'd he go?
Yeah, that's it.
That's what bothered me.
It ended. It's like
there was no other follow up on that in the movie.
So
twice to make sure I didn't miss it. So I'm like, what?
I know. I had to go to sleep and missed it.
I had to go back. So we all did that. We went back. God, it just ended quickly. What the hell? But I did like his character though. That Rule. I thought I think as an actor, some of the best characters you get to play are bad guys, right?
Oh yeah,
way more interesting, or even good guys that are bad guys, like the Bad Lieutenant with Harvey Keitel.
You get a lot more leeway to do more in your acting repertoire.
It's more fun, right? And getting to be the bad guy, or Hans Gruber in Die Hard. He was a great villain. But he plays a pretty good bad guy here, and I'm trying to think of the other movies I don't recall him being a bad guy in other movies.
Oh no, Jason Clarke, he's a Canadian actor, or maybe Australian. He plays a CIA officer in Zero Dark 30.
Yeah.
He has the new TV show on Apple called The Last Frontier, where he's a marshal in Alaska. It's a great show. He played in Terminator Genesis, where he was supposedly the son, but he actually came back as a robot. And he also played in a movie called Everest about the guys that died up there.
Yeah.
Outstanding job. Outstanding.
Great movie.
Yeah, he's a great actor. He froze to death on that one.
I want to do that one movie Cliffhanger with Sylvester Stallone as the reserve search and rescue guy that saves the day. I got to do that one because it is a cop movie, but it's so unrealistic.
That was a great show. That was a great movie. A lot of good actors in that thing.
Just a little bit, guys.
hanging by one arm and between two. Okay, right. That ain't.
Yeah, I'll pull you up.
But so our younger guy actually goes and finds his partner, and they're looking for the missing girl. Now I'm glad we would all do this. We would all be stick-to-itive. We would be looking for this 11, 12-year-old. We wouldn't just abandon that. And they show that. And the unrealistic part of this is she's found alive. Oh, they're going to come back for her. I thought that was so unrealistic. That's not going to happen.
She's still tied up face down.
Face down. She's still alive.
It turned out it was her brother and Rhino.
Yeah, and which is disgusting. And her brother's married to the mom or something like that. No, it wasn't her brother. It was Rhino and
her brother.
her brother.
The
brother
hooker's
and
son.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, it was like that was completely disgusting. But
Yeah.
you know, they stuck with it, and I think that's realistic. That part's realistic. They would stick with it.
Well, he
if
was
they have,
when they got that killing in the end. He's yelling to his mom, "Mom, he made me do it. He made me do it."
yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing: the mom could. But this is typical. People don't realize this. This is typical in law enforcement. The mom could give a shit about the daughter the whole time.
Yeah.
Could go, you slaps her because she's there when she's got a gentleman caller or whatever she call him. But the moment that she thinks that they killed her, all of a sudden her mom instincts come back and she's going to kill them for killing her daughter.
Yeah, my little baby.
My little baby. And it's like, but it's typical. Same as, you know, we've all been there. You go to a family fight, the wife's, you know, got the crap kicked out of her, but as soon as you're taking daddy to jail, now all of a sudden she wants to fight you.
Oh yeah. Many a time. That's the
Yeah.
most dangerous call. You know that.
Yeah.
Well,
Domestic violence.
I do enjoy that they kill each other, right? You know, for the most part.
Yeah, that's a good part.
That was enjoyable, but it was unrealistic, right?
Right.
And then
there's other stuff we missed that's unrealistic. You know, before they went in chase of Rule and they were setting up, which you and I talked about, we all talked about before we started, that everybody in that town knows you're a cop. They know the car. But even before that, he gets the search warrant. But how's he get the search warrant? He goes in the garage illegally, opens up a car, sees all the blood. You know, it's like
nothing like tainting the evidence. Can't use.
Ruined all the evidence. So,
but I'll get a good old boy.
What's unrealistic about that too is they show her. Oh, she's carrying groceries. Anybody could have saw that that's a gasoline can.
She can barely carry it. Weighing a couple gallons.
It was very realistic what happened, though. Arsonists, you know, particularly idiot arsonists like this lady go to destroy the evidence, and she ends up lighting herself on fire. That part was realistic. You know?
That was good.
That was realistic. But yeah, so I mean, just so there's a lot of things that are like, okay, this has gone off the rails. But you know, so they find the girl and she's alive, and of course, I thought, okay, the movie makers really didn't want to kill this sympathetic little girl, right? I mean, I think that was part of it, right? But then the guy stays in the woods, knowing that they're by himself, knowing that he's got the dog with him, right? But knowing that they're going to come back, and he thinks he's going to take him, you know, because all right, even if that's the case. You know, hang back. You see them come back, and you call the troops, right? You know, you don't confront them by your, you know. So I don't know. That was completely unrealistic. Of course, he gets shot, right? And
macheted.
Yeah. So I mean, just dumb stuff, and you know, so he saves the girl, but you know, I don't know. So they kept her alive. I didn't think that was realistic either. I think if you're a killer, and it was implied that they're serial killers. Now, the bad guy the real bad guy that I showed you up front, I forget his name now. The picture, you know, he did have a crime partner, and this is where I think our two bad guys that kidnapped this little girl were consistent with the real life murderers. One of them was the primary leader, and he was good for, they think, 4. And this other guy, they got him for manslaughter, but it was, you know, basically tampering for evidence. He was the follow-on guy. You know, he was not the primary killer, right? So but he'll get prosecuted. Thankfully, I forget what I think it was DNA or something they got on those guys to finally be able to do the prosecution. But this is also consistent with, remember the speed freak killers up in Northern California, John Shermantine, and they killed a lot of girls, dumped them in wells up there, and Shermantine, I can't remember the name of his, Herzog and Shermantine, and same kind of thing, kidnapped girls from bars, and these were just local girls, it wasn't prostitutes, and then they would and they were all hooked on speed, right? So it was probably girls that were interested in taking drugs, but some of them anyways, and they would just kidnap them, rape them, and kill them, and dump them in wells. And So yeah, this is and that's similar to the killing fields because they had a lot of areas up there. They knew the area, they grew up in that area, and it's probably going to be the same thing here with the killing fields. Yeah, if you grow up in an area and you know it from a time you're a kid, Scott, and there's a lot of rural areas, you know where you can actually dump a body and get away with it, right? Because you know it like the back of your hand, right?
Yep, and that's what these guys use is they dump the bodies in areas that they know that most people, nobody's going to go out there, let's say, and find the body because most normal people won't venture out there.
Yeah.
And that's why you see, like, a lot of times it's like, oh, this, you read about this, missing person that's been missing for, 15 years. And then all of a sudden, you see in the headlines that hunters come across bones, and it turns out to be some victim from 10 years ago, because nobody else. You should promote more hunters because they seem to find a lot of
Well, they're going down the game trails, right? They're going down the game trails, which are likely where the killers are going to go. The killers aren't going to hack their way through a forest to dump a body. No. They'll go down established trails or game, either the human trails or game trails to make that dump.
They want to get rid of that body as fast as possible.
Right. They don't want to be caught out there with it, right? But they know where they're going to go, and they know how to, or they know where they want to dump them, where they feel like they can get anonymity on the whole thing, right? No, they're not going to find them, which obviously the longer it takes to find, the less forensic evidence, and the harder it is to link them to the killer, particularly if it's a stranger abduction, right? Those are really the hard ones to do.
And random murders or random abductions, I would say they're probably the hardest. I mean, homicide guys would know better, but I think Gil Creo told me once that random murders are the hardest to solve.
Sure.
Right. And so just for the audience, Gil Creo is the famous homicide detective that worked on the Night Stalker case and many other cases for that matter. I think he worked on the Hillside Strangler cases too. So legendary on the LA County Sheriff's Department and amongst the homicide investigators, Gil Creo. So here's one of the things when our guy was looking for what he thought was a body, they showed blackbirds. And I thought, okay, that's pretty good because, blackbird is a scavenger, right? They will look at corpses and they'll feed on corpses or dead carcasses, right? So I thought that was that's accurate, right, Scott? You're, country boy. That happens, right?
Oh, we get it out here. We have vultures.
Oh, yeah.
So you'll see them circling, and you can narrow down. I mean, you look at them, you think, oh, that's pretty close. And then you realize that, no, they're probably about, they're about 500 yards away. They're not that close. But yeah, they circle all the time. And usually if it's windy, they're usually just using the wind to just fly around, right? But if you see more than one or two circling, you're like, okay, something's dead. And
yeah, exactly.
The roadkill will be like a whole huddle.
Right.
That's that roadkill.
Oh yeah,
a good indication that something is dead. I can't remember what movie. I think it's a Western where he's laying in the desert and the buzzard lands next to him and he's all crusted over and he's like on his last leg and he looks at the vulture and he says, "Not yet."
Not there yet. Yeah.
Not yet.
Well, you always see it. The Westerns are a good one. They'll show it there, but they showed it here. So this was one realistic thing that the movie guy got right, showing the blackbird, and that is typical for if you're looking for a body.
Amy Mann's husband is Michael Mann.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah, famous director.
Okay. Well, she's got some work to do on that, on storytelling. I think particularly at the end, although I did enjoy the end, because it's like I wrote it down. Texas Justice was right. I wrote down, but okay. So our main bad guy, the guy that played Rhino, he had too good of teeth. I'm sorry, you see this big smile at the end. He had too good of teeth.
Yeah, that's true.
somebody in that life, right? You know, I mean, if you look at meth using or drug using, they ain't taking care of their teeth, right? And he had too good of teeth, as far as I'm concerned.
I was surprised they didn't use some makeup to make his teeth look,
yeah, you know, a serial killer with a dental plan. That's what I saw. And so, but that's the movies, right? I guess we gotta, like, they could have made him a little more grungier, right? I mean, even
like the brother, he looked like he was down and out drug user type guy, but he's like working in the oil. But then again, they show him working at a refinery, so he does have money.
I know, right? But I'm sorry, he's still. You can work at a refinery, but if you're also in the life, drinking and using drugs and carousing, and
I didn't get the connection with the family either.
Yeah, he's just hanging out with the brother, right? That's but he's there all the time. I don't know if he was a customer of the girl's mom, but they could have did a little more character develop on him, but when I did the research into the actual killings, you could see that they tried to line it up with the people that they had identified more immediately here, the ones that they're prosecuting, because they'd been looking at them for a while. So but yeah, so let's get into the final scene, right? So of course the guy goes there about, the New York coppers, he's down, so the younger guy, he's going to take these down. He knows who did it, right? And he went by himself again, right? I mean, he's sneaking up on him by himself, and I'm like, okay, this is so unrealistic. As you said, this is Texas. Everybody would want, ready on the right, ready on the left.
Exactly.
Already on the firing line is what it would be like, right? They wouldn't. And he's all, he gets all his little tactical gear and his little, assault rifle, whatever, to go and take these guys down.
Hollywood loves those assault rifles.
I know, yeah, I know. It's interesting. So the assassin for Trump used a shotgun, and I go, okay, that would have been my preference if I'm,
I didn't know she was related to Michael Mann.
Yeah, I thought it was his wife, but it's his daughter.
It's his daughter, okay.
And then, of course, he produced the film, so nothing like a little Nepo baby there.
Well, he should have given her little tips on the end. Although I did enjoy,
a lot more tips.
Yeah, wrapping up some of these guys. What happened to Rule and at least show a scene where the Texas state troopers get him and kill him. I mean, something. Let's just close that loop.
Out on the side of the road or something.
Close that loop, right? And because he can't operate there anymore. Everybody knows who he is. He's not like he's going to continue pimping out these foster kids. They're going to be going after him, right? So,
but to John's point, they're doing that surveillance. Everybody knows each other. But then the guy drives off and nobody's in a vehicle to chase him.
No, they're well, everybody ran to save the old former hooker that's burning herself to death, and they're like, he has to yell at him, go after him.
That's just for the audience. Usually, you're going to have a chase car in case somebody gets out, right?
Absolutely.
Somebody's going to be.
You couldn't classify this as a police procedural drama.
No, not at all.
There was no procedures followed.
A lot of emotion, though. A lot of emotion.
So it's Hollywood.
He goes to the house, and and they start talking about the daughter. Where's the daughter? Where's the girl? Where's the girl?
I did like the phone calls. I did like that part.
That was a great move.
Where he's fucking with them by, hey, put so-and-so on the phone. What?
Yeah.
Well, they knew because, that was the phone of one of the dead girls.
Right.
And
it was his sister's phone.
So they knew he was dirty. And he said, well, this is how I can get on. Let me speak to the whatever the mom's name was. And they wouldn't let him. Then finally the boy says, yeah, the daughter, and he's like, oh, fuck. He just went downhill from there. But he was psychologically playing with him before he went in there.
Right.
Well, that was his sister, the little girl's cell phone.
Yep.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah. So he was calling her cell phone that he knew they took because. And another thing I didn't get, the phone guy that worked at the phone company.
Yeah.
Sneaking around the corner to talk. And I'm like, in my view, I'm like, why do you have to be so sneaky? Your boss said, what the fuck are you doing? Saying, I'm helping the cops catch a murderer.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they had a search warrant, so he was doing it pro bono for his buddy.
Well, that only takes an administrative warrant, Scott, right? It's not really
right.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's a little different than a search warrant, is
right.
It right?
It's basically a formal request. That's what it ought to be called.
Yeah.
Not like you're going after, well, it depends if it's a record search but if you're just trying to get a ping on a cell phone, it's not a, media calls it a search warrant, but it's really not a search warrant. You're requesting documents.
Right. And they could deny it too. Then you would have to go get the search warrant, right?
Right.
And that's I think why he was being clandestine. You know,
but
he didn't want to get in trouble.
But most cell phone companies, you send them a copy of the warrant, and they're more than happy to help you.
Yeah.
In my experience, they're more than happy. Okay, what do you want? What are the dates you need? Okay, we'll send it.
We got to thank Gambit here. So the Texas Killing Field received limited theatrical release domestically in just 10 theaters, grossing God, what is that? 50,000? That's not even $500,000, right?
That was a bomb. It was a bomb. It wasn't a good movie.
1.6 movies in other territories and worldwide. Okay, so and no, it wasn't. I mean, I obviously I wanted to talk about the Texas Killing Fields themselves, and to some degree, it does.
I know why I've never seen
it. But it did give us a little chance to talk about areas where bodies get dumped and that kind of thing and stuff like that. But you're right. So he is the real life cops portrayed of Jeffrey Dean Morgan in this movie are seen in episode of investigative series.
Oh wow, interesting.
Okay, yeah. But it's not just as we said in the beginning of the show. It's probably not just one killer or one set of killers. It's probably multiple killers over time that are using it as a dumping ground, as we talked about, like the boneyard up here in Los Angeles, where body dumps happen all the time by different actors, different bad guys, and or they take them out there and kill them there. There was one where the MS-13 took a victim out and they macheted him to death, and I want to say it was the Antelope Valley side of the San Gabriel Mountains. And they caught him coming down. I think they caught after the murder. But
I was part of the fire response team. I can't remember what it was called. And we were in a meeting with I was a sergeant at the time, and we're in a meeting with LA County Fire and all, because we're doing an after action for one of the big fires up there. And IMT, I was on IMT 1.
Yeah.
So we went to this after action thing, and having my experience with you and the automated license plate reader, and you got the Forest Service there, you got all the people sitting around this table, and I said, I got an idea. The millions and millions of dollars spent on these fires, there's only limited roads going into the area.
Yeah.
Let's put automated license plate reader cameras. It would help on body dumps. It would help to catch arsonists. We could see, if the fire started around this time. We could look at the cameras, and you would have thought that I said there was no God. They're like, oh, we can't do that. That's too. Who's going to do this? Who's going to? And it's like, okay.
Yeah, you're probably talking $1 million investment. That's all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're all, oh no, we're not going to do that. I'm like, okay. Simple solution.
I was sailing with this gal. I was a friend of the person who owned the boat, and she was in Beverly Hills, and she got robbed at gunpoint. And they have automated license plate readers and CCTV cameras everywhere in their main drags. And they saw it. It was reported. They got the car and license number, and they tracked it on the way out, and they caught it as it was leaving the city. Beverly Hills PD did. And I thought, God, I wish I could do that here, where I live at, because LA City's not going to get any better on their policing. So if you put those systems in place, but some cities have figured it out, and Beverly Hills did figure it out, that it's worth the investment, is what you're talking, the automated license plate readers, and they convicted, and they were from the Bay Area. They came down to do robberies on Rodeo Boulevard, and they got caught. Right, most of the local crooks probably know that that stuff is there, so they don't go into Beverly Hills anymore because too many of them got caught. But hey, so our gal is she gets notified that by the cops that where's your daughter, kind of thing, and finally, what does the brother keep saying? She ain't coming back. She ain't coming back.
Yeah.
Which then starts the gunfire. And the shooting, and then the one where she stabbed the rhino in the chest. I did that was great justice, good Texas justice. But I thought that was the whole thing was unrealistic. And of course, in this case, the cop wisely stayed outside. So, let it
one time.
He let it all play out.
Yep.
And just picked up the
waiting.
pieces. Just picked up the pieces, right? And I did like the final scene where he's looking at Rhino, and he's, it's kind of like, because you get the impression that Rhino thinks he's smarter than everybody else, right?
Oh yeah.
And here he is, he's got a knife in his chest. I think he's taking one round too, in his shoulder, something like that. And he knows he ain't going to make it, right? And that's where he got the big smile on his stand. This is not a real killer. Look at those teeth, So just put a little black stuff in there, something, But
little spinach stuck in his teeth, something.
Yeah, something. I don't know. But
I noticed that. I just noticed, he's thinking, oh, he's going to shoot me now, right? And
right.
He just lowers the gun, but watch it bleed out.
Watch him bleed. Yeah, he doesn't have to, right? Just to push the gun away
a
from
big smile on my face. This is the last thing you're going to see.
Yeah, last thing you get to see is this cop smiling that you're at your demise, and he pushed the demise with the phone call and the notification, and and they were all despicable people. The mom was, the brother, him. So they all bought the farm. The only one that didn't buy the farm that would have closed all the loops on this is Rule, right? The white dude with the tattoo.
I don't understand why it just ended like that.
Yeah, Yeah,
that's what this was, a shitty movie.
Yeah, I thought like you, Pat, that when they do the whole last thing, a few months later, and they're showing it, I thought for sure they'd show Rule in like a gunfight with Texas state troopers on the side of a road or something.
Yeah,
they never even addressed it. It's like, so what happened?
Yeah.
Probably got on the cutting floor with their poor budget.
Yeah.
They had to cut it out.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Here, sweetie, your daughter, I'm going to set you up and you're going to direct this movie and blah, 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 blah. And then it just totally tanks.
Well, we haven't inspired a whole lot of people to watch the movie on this particular show.
Well, I saw it probably 10 years ago, and I didn't remember it until I started watching. I'm like, oh my God, not this one.
But we did get a chance.
I didn't remember all this stuff because it's so long ago.
We did get a chance to talk about a lot of police procedures and, the realities of dumping grounds too, right?
It's funny how other states, especially in the South, have so many different things that they do, especially in rural. I was at training one time, and they had guys from Georgia there. And they asked them, the instructor, well, what are you doing at felony stop? You're in the middle of nowhere. It's like kind of like Palmdale, Lancaster, and your nearest backup is 2 hours away. And he says, well, if we got a felony stop, we just stack them. He goes, what do you mean stack them? Pull the driver out, have him check them, lay on the ground, pull the passenger out, lay on top of them, pull the back passenger out. All three of them stacked like pancakes. I'm like,
Can't you imagine doing that in L.A.?
Yeah, really. He goes,
Oh
you got to do that because
Yeah.
then if they run, then would you shoot them if they come out with a gun? Like, holy shit.
Yeah, you don't want
shit just for curbing people, right?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Curbing people is
Oh,
making
sit on the
ice sit
curb.
down.
Oh, that's the meaning, making them sit on the curb. Then everybody knows that you're okay. Well, then you don't want us putting them on their hands on the hood,
Right?
That makes them look bad. Now you're upset because we make them sit with their legs crossed on the curb.
Just all that does is give you a little bit of reaction time for them to get up and all that kind of stuff. That's all that is, and it's really low intrusive. But the ACLU will look for every reason to attack this nonsense.
Yep.
Say, I wanted to bring Martine up and get his impressions on the movie and the commentary. Martine, are you there?
All right, yes, I'm here.
All right, so we've been kind of bashing the movie. What are your thoughts? Did you had seen the movie before and you weren't aware?
No,
of the story?
I saw it yesterday, and yes, you were absolutely right in your bashing. There's so much things. Wait, what? How are the thing with the car and the tarp, dude? You can go into the garage with an order. You oh my god.
But we did get a chance to talk about the true Texas killing fields, and so so it's a little. We do review the movies, but we also are a little informative police work.
However, it's still a tough watch because you remember, or you're made conscious again of what horrible things humans do to other humans.
Oh yeah.
Oh my.
I mean, a lot of that stuff is true, like Martine's saying, like the mom not giving a shit about the kid and drugs and all that kind of stuff. That part is true.
And the foster care stuff, the tossing them out without support, the sexual predation,
pimping of children, and the whole. I understand some killing, but killing those kind of killing are, man, I don't know. Killing without a reason, just because what you think is fun.
Yeah, a lot of sadistic people out there.
It is for them.
Yeah. There is something. They get something out of it. There is. I mean, Ridgway enjoyed the control, right? So did what's his name up in Washington, Bundy. He enjoyed the control, and that's a big part of it for a lot of these guys. And I like I said on this one, I think it's multiple killers. Just using an area that they're familiar with, and that's a big thing. People who are killers will look for areas they're familiar with to make the body dump because one, they're lazy. They can be lazy, but two, they're afraid. So they go to an area they're familiar with. They don't want to go to an area they're unfamiliar with because they don't know what to expect, right? And so whoever did all these killings is local. They're either a local oil worker, right, or somebody using the local strip for prostitution, or even it could somebody dies of overdose. That's where you're going to dump the body, so you don't have to tell everybody that you're in the drug business. But the Texas killing fields, these happen. This is everywhere. We just saw the Long Island serial killer. He was dumping there for a long time, and there are other body dumps there that they think are not his, right? And even the Green River killer, there were two that are operating up there, Ridgway and somebody else. And so a lot of these areas, these ruined areas, become body dump areas. And here we got one common sense solution that Scott put out there, and we don't do it, right? Because there's going to be more body dumps up in the boneyard, as we call it here in San Gabriel Valley, and it
wouldn't cost that much because there's not that many entrances and exits.
No, and and particularly you can just do the main areas,
exactly,
the main ones, and you're going to come up with 80% of your issues there, But yeah, this in terms of movie making, this wasn't it. Could have been a better movie, but did get us a chance to talk about body dumps. Body dump areas that are convenient for killers to dump their bodies. Martine, that is the show for today. I think we're done. Thanks for popping up and giving us your thoughts. To the audience, thank you for all the commentary. I've enjoyed watching it as I'm doing the show. Gambit, Johnson, Jameson, he's been off for a little while, but thank you guys for joining the show.
Yep.
Yeah, you can take it away, Martine. You stick around for debrief, guys.
See you guys.
Bye.
Y'all come back now, you hear? Matt Damon.